This is our Thursday night segment, Voice of the People, where your voice really matters, because we're going to take your comments and questions and we're going to read them on air. But before we go into our program, if you have not already been over to our YouTube page, go over to our YouTube page, subscribe, click the bell. That way you can get any notifications from any time that we have a new show. I tried to do that with a straight face because we had some fun before it got on. I think I made it through. But we're going to continue our conversation about gentrification. We had a lot of information last night. It was great conversation. It was a lot of education. But we're gonna touch on some things that we didn't get to, and then we're gonna listen to the voice of our people. We have several comments that we're gonna address for people that. But also, if you're looking at us live, if you want to comment, if you want to give us some information, we are taking your comments live. But gentrification, we learned yesterday that it's a big word and a big process,
and it's very complicated.
Yes,
a lot of people see it and view it totally different than others.
Yes.
So. And we talked about the pros and cons.
Yes, it's not all bad. It's not all bad. Now, let's understand, and that's what we said. Because there's change. Change is always good in most cases.
Mm-hmm.
But the reason of change or the process of change or the purpose for the change sometimes might be different,
That's right.
For different people and for different reasons. But gentrification, if you don't know the word, if you don't know what that means, Jill, you had a definition last night, didn't you?
Got several definitions.
You got one, Dr. V?
Yep, got several. Here's one definition: the process of renewing or rebuilding, accompanying an influx of the middle class or affluent people into deteriorating areas, which often displaces poor residents. And then I gave you my version of that, which is the process of rebuilding that often displaces poor residents.
Yes.
Trying to keep it simple.
And that's simple. But it's also a healthy process. You and I were talking about this last night off air. There's some things we didn't hit on air that leads to gentrification, and there's signs of gentrification. And one of them is, and people might think this is funny, they might not like the word because it's probably not politically correct anymore, but it affected Gary, it affected Chicago, it actually affected Detroit at one point in time. And that is white flight.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
White flight is one of the key things that can trigger gentrification.
Yes.
And if you don't know what white flight is, it's a term used that when white people start moving out of neighborhoods, because, black people start moving in those neighborhoods, they decide that they don't want to live in those neighborhoods anymore because of whatever reasons. We know the reasons. They say the property values go down, the crime go up. Mm-hmm. So they decide that they move out, west, north, wherever, out of those neighborhoods. And that leaves these neighborhoods sometimes empty.
And blighted.
Yes.
Can I ask you a question, C Stats? What you just said, is that true?
Is white flight true?
We know that exists. That's real.
White flight happened.
Yes.
But when black people move into a neighborhood, does the neighborhood go for the worse?
Not in all cases.
But if you were to do it on a percentile, how would that look?
Well, that's just some good research, but white flight isn't that.
No, I'm going by what he said. He made an illustration as to that when there's a white neighborhood, whatever the reason why white people begin to migrate to whatever side of town they do, he said typically it's because black people begin to move into that space. Mm-hmm. So that's the reason why I asked the question.
Yes. Mm. I would say it would have to be maybe a 80-20. Some neighborhoods, yes, because some people move out of different neighborhoods, but they don't move mentally. So they take some of the troubles and things with them. So I would say 80 to 20%, maybe those neighborhoods and the crime go up. But as we've seen in other neighborhoods that, the crime does not change. It just, the value of the property, and that's not anything that the moving in because the house should maintain the same value. It's just how banks and people that, industries that's loaning money see the value of the property because of the cultural makeup of the neighborhood.
Or watch this, James, before you say that, before you leave this. If they want to, let's say, revitalize certain areas that's way out there, then that would be one of the reasons why white people may start moving to those areas.
Yes.
Because they're giving them low property value out there to move that way. So they're kind of like saying, hey, come over here. And then they do that, and then that's what causes it. So they start leaving this particular neighborhood, not for any particular reason, but when they do and they start moving out, then that's the same difference.
Totally understand what you're saying, Dr. B. But what C. Stacks, the illustration that he gave was like there's a stigma
Yes.
to that,
Mm-hmm.
a stigma to Black people.
Yes.
So that's why I feel like that's a good conversation to talk about, which is a portion of gentrification.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So that stigma, the illustration that you gave,
Yes.
us as Black people, can we say that we as a Black people, we warrant that stigma? Is that stigma a reality? I mean, when you look around at our neighborhoods, how we don't cut grass, don't take care of things, we're renting. So when you see people that are kind of stable or whatever, I mean, so is the stigma a reality?
Tell the truth.
Is the stigma a reality?
And yes, but I can't give it a blanket statement because some people buy their houses and they take care of their houses and things like that. But still, even though that stigma is still applied to, that neighborhood, there might not be any crime, there might not be any trash, there might not be any deterioration of that neighborhood, but that stigma is still going to be there.
It ain't all Black. So I just want to add that.
Because there's bad and less in every culture, but
that's right.
The biggest thing, my
people,
biggest thing, man, is for us as Black people, man, to be aware of all that we should be aware of.
Yes.
That's relevant to us changing and doing better for us.
Mm-hmm.
So the reality, when we talk about that stigma, and you just said a minute ago that probably 80% true.
And he's speculating. But I just want to say before Jill start putting that in there, because I know she's going to put some good stuff in there we need to hear. But I just want to say clearly that sometimes, and I'm just speaking facts, sometimes when the property values start going down, it's not because we were there. It's not because of what we're doing or not doing in that community. So for whatever reason, they say, hey, these properties have gone down in this area. I just don't want people trying to point the finger at us. So when we said, is the stigma true or is there a reality to it? There may be reality to the belief of that, but that's not necessarily saying we agree with it being factual that Black people may be bringing the value down.
Right. And, I have to chime in here and say that we have to be real, because the reason that white people aren't moving into neighborhoods where Black people live or vice versa, they're moving out, I don't think has anything to do with the law and has nothing to do with the crime. It has to do with the fact that they don't want to live next to Black people. I used to have people call me in the rental business and literally on the phone ask me, how many Black people live there? I would move white people into an apartment and they would want me to move them out. It has nothing to do with the grass or the crime or anything else, if we're being real. These people, white people, a lot of white people have tied the property value to skin color, have tied the crime to skin color, have tied everything to skin color. So you could have an immaculate lawn, you could take care of your home, and people still aren't going to care. So when we say the Black community needs to do better, you could have a pristine Black community that's doing as best as they possibly can, and you would still have white people who would not move to the neighborhood.
Right.
So, and back to what you said, there are neighborhoods right now that I won't drive into and that are predominantly white. So I do think that it's a stigma. I do think that if we look at statistics, we could find a lot of things. But most of it is the media telling us that Black people are bad and white people are still racist today, and they're believing that. So that's just my take on it.
That's it. And it's just like James said last night, a lot of the crimes that's happening in certain areas, they are not reporting it. And so I know that for a fact. So I lived in a particular area out past County Line Road, and I know what was happening in those areas. I know what kind of signs they were putting on our doors telling us to keep our car doors locked, et cetera, and what was happening in the neighborhood. You never heard it on the news. So I agree with that when James talked about that. But if it's Black, if it's happening on the South Side, you know it.
Immediately.
Well, and I can agree. And that's part of gentrification too. And I'm glad that we're having this discussion. It doesn't just happen in Black neighborhoods. There's a neighborhood in this city right now that they're trying to blight, that it's on the news all the time because it's in the middle of progression of the downtown area. And that's the Nebraska neighborhood. That's over off of Wells and Fourth, in that area. If you have looked at it lately, a lot of news for the longest time, it stayed quiet. You never heard anything out of that neighborhood. But right now, you're seeing a lot of crime being reported, a lot of police activity over there. Because
it's about to go down.
It's about to go down. They're trying to
go up.
Yeah, they're trying to get a lot of that, and that's part of gentrification.
Yes.
They'll blight areas. They'll bring down reputation of areas to be
Mhm.
able to, go in and the property values.
Bring the property values
value
down, and then that's when
and
they
run people out, and people move out with the
Yes.
mentality, it's too bad over here, so
Mhm.
we have to move somewhere else. And when a lot of those properties don't sell, or they rent them out till they run down, and then things like that, so then they come in and they gentrify those areas.
make that move. Absolutely.
You got a face over there, Mr. Scott. What you think?
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead, E-Fikes.
No, go ahead. I'm gonna let you go.
Well, we got comments tonight.
Yeah, we got some comments.
So-
Go ahead, E.
I look at the gentrification as something as far as it is a good thing.
Mhm.
It's not negative.
It's not negative.
I got you.
It's not bad. But we need to take advantage of that gentrification. And that's one thing we don't do. We let other cultures take advantage of that situation instead of us taking advantage of the situation.
But you say that as if Black people don't actually buy properties, rebuild communities,
I'm not saying we
revitalize.
don't,
And
but-
I was just going to say, so when you say we don't take advantage
don't
of it,
take
there's
advantage.
actually people out there that are Black people that are into revitalizing.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, as far as people that actually stay in that area,
hmm
they see the area as being
revitalized.
revitalized,
Yeah.
and they be like, okay, I can't afford this, so I'm leaving.
hmm
No, instead of saying I can't afford this, how can I get in on it
Yeah.
hmm
and take
Embrace
advantage?
it.
Yeah, embrace it
Yes,
and take
yes.
advantage of the situation.
Yes.
Understanding, okay, instead of my family have a rental property, and instead of my mom taking advantage of the situation of they're actually trying to revitalize that whole neighborhood,
hmm
she ready to sell. No, do not sell it.
No.
Period.
Said- yeah.
Go in there,
That's right.
rebuild it, make it look
Yeah.
good, and sit on it.
Be a
Yeah.
part of that
Be a
change.
part of
Yeah,
it.
be a part of the
Mhm.
change. Don't
Yeah.
run from the change.
Yes.
Right.
And it's like you running from
I agree with that.
greatness.
Yes.
You running from success
Yeah.
at that point.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
true. That's
I
true.
agree with that.
Well, and that leads us into one of our comments. Well, actually two, but I'm just going to do one that hits where Eric is talking about it. It says, can we stop saying we as a people, culture, and community cannot work together and just come together and do it? A house divided cannot stand.
Well, that's what we've been talking about the whole time. So wherever that comment came from, thank you for the
Yeah.
comment. But that's one of the things that we've been talking about the entire time. And so, you have to mention it to bring awareness to it. But ultimately, hopefully the goal is for us to unite and come together. So
Yeah.
sometimes you just gotta,
Well,
bring
and
it to the surface.
here's something, and I did some research, and this is something we can do and we should do, and we should research it. But the problem is, and I understand that we do need to come out of this conversation, but this conversation has to stop outside of it. Well, the perpetration of the conversation have to stop. This is what I'm saying. We have all been conditioned not to trust our fellow man in doing business. We've been conditioned with that. Well, you can't trust them. You can't do business. So we got to get out of that to end this conversation. And I say this because of this. Have anybody heard of a community land trust? Anybody heard of? Well,
I
community
heard
land
you
trust.
talk about it.
Yes, the community land trust. This is what we need to do. Now, if we have properties, and this is where the trust has to come in, not only the trust in having an organization, but the trust of your fellow man.
Yeah.
If I own property, Doc V own property, James own property, EU own property, and we in the same neighborhood, what we do is we put the community trust. We put all of our land in this trust. And if the land sells, we put in the trust that land cannot be sold outside of whatever we want it. If we want to say we want to move it up and coming Black family in there, we're going to keep the land in the neighborhood to keep it from being, gentrified. But we
Keep
still
it in the neighborhood
keep
or in the family.
in the family. But we
Mhm.
still have to keep up the houses, to keep up their property, keep
Yes.
up, keep
Keep
up
up the
appearances.
value.
We can keep up the value, but we can stop letting other entities come in
Right.
And buy it.
and buy it and take it over. And we just own it and we pass it on. Generational wealth, keep passing it on.
Correct.
And that trust could last forever.
And why couldn't you? You could do that. It just kind of reminds me of, when I mentioned last night. So I just want to say to the vets that we're thinking about you today.
Yeah.
Hearts
Yes,
go out to
vets,
you.
vets. Thank you, thank you.
Yes, thank you for your service. But just like back then, when I talked about World War II, and at one point the GI Bill, they had some dirty stuff going on with that, where they wouldn't basically wouldn't let Black people buy homes, and so they had to sign a contract, or they had an agreement with some of the landowners that you can't sell to Black people. And so it's kind of like what you're saying
in reverse.
With this,
yes.
Yeah, absolutely, in reverse. So I'm saying they did it. So why can't we do it?
And that's the mentality. But first of all, again, we got to stop saying I can't trust, this person. We can't work together with this person. We got to end.
But there's a reason we say that. So what we have to do is actually step up. We have to do better.
Yes.
And so how we say stop looking for a hand up. We got to be the hand up. Yeah. We got to be the person that says, "Hey, I can do better," and do better. Don't just say it. So if we own a business, why can't we open our business on time? Why can't we serve the best of whatever it is we're serving? So we have to stop making excuses and do better. And then so hopefully, that keeps going and we can have that.
Can we read that comment one more time, please?
Yes. It says, can we stop saying that we as a people, culture, and community cannot work together and just come together and do it? A house divided cannot stand.
So that statement, who is that statement to? Who's divided? Who's the people?
And I'm assuming because this person wasn't African American, they were talking about we as Black people, because we as Black people always saying that we can't work together. I mean, that's just the common saying that we hear, why we can't progress, because we can't come together.
Okay, so question to the panel: can Black people come together?
Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely. That's why I just
what would it take? What would it take?
What would it take?
What does that look like?
I just made my point, so I'm gonna leave it to y'all. And that's why I said for you to be accountable for yourself and do better.
What it looked like is, for me, we sit down and have a conversation. We stop pointing the finger at each other. When we point the finger at each other and we don't have that conversation amongst each other and say, okay, say I come into the shop. Something go wrong with my phone or whatnot. Instead of dogging you, I need to have that conversation with you and not cuss at you, not go off on you, but have that dialogue where we can talk back and forth, where there's no animosity. You see what I'm saying? Just that conversation alone can get you a long way.
I think that for any community to come together, first and foremost, there needs to be a leader in order to form some kind of organization, somebody to tell the people of the community, look, this is what we have to do. This is what we're going to do. So this is what you're going to do. You're going to do. You're going to do. There has to be a leader in any community. Anytime you're trying to come together and do something, a lack of leadership, in my opinion, is detrimental to people coming together and uniting.
You have to be careful with that, because then that could almost look like dictatorship.
And
then you have people ready to rebel, and then it goes haywire.
But there has to be.
I understand what type of leadership you're talking about, and not necessarily saying you're going to do this, you're going to do that, but coming together in agreement and saying, what can we do? And people have the buy-in and say, yes, I'm willing to, and this is how we're going to help each other. What can you do? What can you do?
Right.
What can I do? And so let's do it.
First and foremost, I believe we have to check egos. It can't be about one person's agenda, and it can't be. I can bring my personal ideas, but I can't run my personal agenda if we're going to come together. We have to come to a common agenda. But checking the egos, where it's not about you, it's about the greater good.
That's right.
I think if we can check our egos first and foremost, and not have to be in a spotlight, not have to claim the credit, I think that starts it. Because if we all humble ourselves, I think that starts it. And I'm not better than anybody else, no matter what money I have, what position I have, but I can humble myself and say, look, this is what we need to get done, and we work together to do that. So I think checking your ego is a big part of it.
That's right. And if you allow me to, real quick, from Starlet, I'm going to call her Starlet Q. So this is not my original. I love it. And so I'll share this. This is a perfect time for that. So here's some things that we can do. First of all, I need you to see the acronym WEALTH, using it as an acronym. W for willingness. We have to be willing to, and to be ready to mobilize as Black people, and to be able to circulate our dollar in our communities longer than 1 hour. We have to, for the E, evolve in our minds financially, and understand the power of understanding how to use our finances. The A, agenda. Do we even have an agenda? We have to have an agenda, have a plan. The L for legacy, leave one. A lot of us don't have any. Leave at least hope for the next generation. Trust. We have to have trust in each other, economically, in our own culture, for all things, and working together. So trust, and you already mentioned something like that. Hope. Hope in the face of adversity at all costs. That is wealth, and you have to start somewhere, and that's a good place to start. I love that. That was from Starlet Q. Can't really say her last name, but it was awesome. I love it. So that came from there. So
That's good.
I wanted to apply it there.
So
Mr.
to,
Scott?
So to whoever gave that comment, man, I think it is extremely pertinent that we do find some sense of unification. I think that's the only way that we can begin to move forward and grow. So without unification, without leadership, we'll be where we are.
That's right.
20 years from now.
Exactly.
So we have to take accountability.
And we have to want like Black Wall Street again.
Yeah.
Everybody don't want that because it takes hard work. And a lot of people don't want to work hard. Okay? So if we would want to duplicate Black Wall Street, that's what we have to do.
Yeah.
Right? Put some work in.
Our next comment comes from Francisco. He says, I think a lot of what is being proposed for the southeast side of town is definitely headed in the direction of gentrification, which will result in displacement. We have experienced some of that with some of the developments that we have seen downtown. The apartments across from the ballpark are a good example, since they tore down occupied homes in order to build those. The positive impact has resulted in what people are saying is the negative form of gentrification. It's weird because it's happening in neighborhoods that have been historically middle class, such as West Central.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I mentioned that. We talked about
Mm-hmm.
that off air, that, you know, some of those houses from, actually from Broadway to Sweeney, in that area, they're redoing those. I mean, there's some middle class, some working class. There's actually some halfway houses and group homes in that area that they are trying to move out and build up to make that community a higher standard of, you know, what it used to be, I guess.
Yeah. And so when we talk about, and we've said before, at what cost, and so thinking of this, I'm thinking at what loss. And so thinking about the people that had to move out of those homes so that they can build those apartments, it reminds me of a comment from Spike Lee, and he was talking about gentrification a while ago, I believe in 2014, etc. He was talking about how it's not that gentrification is wrong, but it's when people destroy the culture of the community and you forget the lives and what people put into that, the art of that community. When you forget about that and you destroy that, that's one of the things that causes a problem. And I'm sure that's what happened to some of those places downtown.
Well, see, I look at it like this. They look at the money.
Mm-hmm.
Say I got 2 or 3 properties that I own, and I stay in one. You offer me 20,000 over what it's worth.
Right.
I'm gonna jump at it. Most people jump at that instead of understanding. Oh, if you're gonna give me 20,000, what is more than what it's worth? That means it's worth more to you than anything. It should be worth more than me because I sit here and built this house.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, a lot of people look at the money. Oh, I can take this money and do X, Y, Z. No. Why take the money if you know they're going to build around there, so they ain't going to do nothing but elevate your property value, 3 or 4 times.
Yeah, but sometimes, but then it depends on how it works. So we talking about comments from the people. Tiffany Haddish, even though she lives in California, has properties in other places. One of the things she was talking about, there's a certain area in California where everything was just dying off. She said businesses were closed in certain neighborhoods. She said she's seen like 3 grocery stores shut the doors in 6 months. So she said what she was going to do is open a grocery store. So she's going to start a market in that area. So she's feeling good about it. Then all of a sudden she looks, she hears, oh, here's a 5-star restaurant or hotel that's coming close by. So she's excited. She said, and then in the midst of that excitement, there's all these other businesses that's continuing to close down. So she's basically saying she don't know what to feel. So you feel like gentrification is great and you're a part of it, and then this is what you're seeing, and then everything's still closing. So, it's a hard thing. And that's why I said it's a blessing and a curse. It's kind of hard to figure out.
But
what
I
it
want
is.
to hit on something when he was saying that they're selling out. Now, there's a flip side to that in gentrification. It's called eminent domain.
Yeah, I was
Eminent
about to hit that
domain,
one too.
They can come in if they deem your property necessary to build up something
Mm-hmm.
and improve something. They can basically give you a price on your property and move you out. And they can give it to you as low as the land value, assessed value of that property.
Yeah, I know.
Not the property with the value of the house that sits on it or anything like that. They will give you the land value, and that's it. So,
And so with that, do they even consider the fact that maybe my mom gave me this
They don't-
house?
At all.
they don't
I know. I
care.
just wanted to bring
They
that
don't
out.
care.
you know,
I just wanted to mention that.
If it impedes their progress,
Yes.
no, they don't care.
And,
So,
and that's where,
Yeah.
See, that's where it's dirty.
I got one more, and it kind of fits with Jill's what she was saying. Fort Wayne needs to be gentrified all over. For many years, we have fallen behind other cities like Indy and Evansville. So we don't just need to focus on one particular area. Now, I agree with that. Fort Wayne, I said this forever, that we were always behind, the growth in cities. But focusing on one particular area, that's not anything that we as simpletons can handle. Because
Yeah,
whatever
we
the
don't
machine
control
is,
that.
I'm not a
whatever,
simpleton. I'm just
in the
I'm not a
grand
simpleton.
scheme of things, whatever the machine, whatever the organization,
Mhm.
whatever the process is, they're gonna build wherever they want to build first, and they're gonna build. Mayor Henry, all he's been saying is we need a vibrant downtown for other residents to move into.
Yeah, he loves that.
That's
Other-
all he-
other residents.
Yeah, that's how he says
Yeah.
it. People to move. We need a vibrant downtown. The city is dying if we don't have a not that we need to bring other businesses in to have jobs,
Mhm.
but if we build a downtown, then that's going to just automatically make people appear.
Well, most of the time, and I understand what this person told me. Your downtown is your heartbeat of your city.
Okay.
So if your heart is not beating, the blood is not gonna flow. Most cities downtown is their heartbeat. You have to understand. Most of everything is in. Go to Indy. You got everything around in downtown that you can do.
Mhm.
Now,
Fort Wayne doesn't have that,
But
and
I'm
I
a-
get and I understand why he wanted to do that. But at the end of the day, is other parts of the city that needs more than downtown.
yes.
And if you neglect one side of a city, like if you look at all the other sides of this city, other than the southeast side of town, every other side of this city is just thriving.
Mhm.
Southeast side of Fort Wayne is not. They
Okay.
actually sucking it up.
Well, they sucking it up, but we sucking it up too. Then, if that's the case, because
mean,
I almost said we doing something else, but I'll let y'all think about that.
I know what
but-
you're we with you there,
But
Doc.
listen, no, I'm saying that because when we can make a difference, or we can put our just say beauty salon in this area, and not just saying that because we have a whole lot of beauty salons and barbershops, but when we can put a business on the South Side, people of color, and not just saying black people of color, period. Do we do that? Or do we go out west or out north?
Right.
Why
That's
do
exactly
we
where
feel
they
like
go.
it's okay to run our dollars to the northwest or wherever and build up and help continue to build up and pour our monies into the other
Wow.
communities when we can do the same thing here? If we come
Actually,
to
I
agreement,
mean,
why
the
you
funny
get
part about
your
it is
money and run
it's
to
cheaper.
the other side?
It would be a lot cheaper to do it on this side of town.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm. For
I
the
mean,
building and the rent and all of that.
I mean, it's a lot cheaper that I would think.
But why do you think people? If I was a black woman and I was going to open up a restaurant, and I didn't open it up here, I opened it on DuPont Road. Why do you think that I would go outside of my community to go and do that? I mean, do they think that they will
The
make more
money?
money
Yes.
because it
They
is
think they
more
gonna make more
fluent? So I mean, we have to think about
They
that
want the
too,
white
because
dollars, and guess what, Jill? They don't believe that white people, and this has a lot of truth to it. They don't believe that white people will come south to patronize a black restaurant, which they probably won't. Most of them, some of them will,
Right.
most of them won't. But they do know that if they're out there and that barbecue is good, white people will come down the street.
yeah, absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely.
So, but too bad. A lot of people do think white people ice is colder.
Mhm. That's true.
Too bad, but they do. Not just the grass greener.
Well, but Joe, I know you got a comment, but Doc V, I have to counter your statement because other cultures are putting businesses in the south side of town, but us. Look at the Burmese community. I mean,
Some of them are
from here to
all of them should.
Walmart South.
Yes,
it's at least 4 to 5 Asian grocery stores. It's a couple of Hispanic places.
Yes,
but that's what we're talking about.
But I just said it's people of color because I don't always want this to be like it's just a black and white world because there's a lot of other people in this that make this thing thrive.
Well, see,
so when I say
it's
what
a lot
I'm
of making
saying,
thrive, but at the end of the day, we as a culture,
I know we as a culture
do not step up and take over our community.
And we need to do that.
And that's the main focus. We need to take over our community where majority of us stay and stop going to the Asian restaurant. Stop going to the Asian 99-cent store to get our hair, nails, and stuff done. We need to do it for ourselves.
I agree with that. I agree with that 100%.
At the end of the day, I don't need to go. Nothing wrong with Mexican eating. I don't have to. Shouldn't have to go to a Mexican restaurant every time I want something to eat. Why can't I go to my own? Why can't I go somewhere that person that look just like me, that have a nice restaurant or have a nice clothing store or a nice business to step into? Now, if we don't take over our own community, somebody else will. Yep. And guess what? They have.
They have.
You got all these different gas stations that's not owned by us. They won't even let us hire us in their gas station or in their little convenience stores. So why are we being content of going to the corner store that the person that owns it don't look like me?
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah, and they're doing it right.
Let's be realistic about it.
You made a great point. I mean, their whole family works in there.
Exactly.
No. I agree with that. I'm saying as people begin to develop more, they need to look at developing more on the south side. And I'm saying that's all people of color. So, and that's just true.
Is that everybody?
When I say people of color, I don't know about the world. I'm just saying, well, people of color, because you have some people that's cross culture now in so many different blended families and blended cultures, and somebody is mixed with this and mixed with that. I'm Asian and black. So I'm just saying people of color to say everybody. So everybody that's on the side. I got some family members that's Hispanic and black, and you have people that's mixed. They don't just necessarily identify as black, but they are people of color. So I'm saying we need to have more people thinking this way and shifting of the mindset that says, hey, I love the South Side. When I get some money, I'm opening a business on the South Side. That is what I'm talking about. People of color, not just y'all may be thinking about people speaking different languages, people that's, like you said, opening up gas stations. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about people of color, period, because I don't know about y'all family, but mine is mixed with a whole lot of other.
Well, I'm gonna say I'm speaking of black folks. Period.
Well,
I'm just gonna be 100 about it.
I'm 100. And this is Neutral Voices, and thank you for being here tonight.
Do not cut me off.
You've been cutting me off.
No, I haven't. I let you speak.
No, I'm saying I get to say what people I'm talking about.
Okay, you got to say when I'm speaking of black folks.
Okay,
us black people.
You're speaking of black people.
As a culture, we need to take over the side of town that we mostly stay in. And that means, like I said, we need to own the gas station. Yes. We need to own the convenience stores. We need to own the restaurants.
And it should start with you, E. Go buy
exactly,
one.
I am. Now, why are you trying to run your mouth? Now.
It should start with you. I'm doing my part.
Okay, I am too. So at the end of the day, that's what I'm speaking
All right, let's do it.
Let's move on.
Let's get it.
Moving forward to our next comment. Gentrification itself is not a terrible thing. We want access to amenities. We want things to look nice.
Yes.
And some of us want those things for everyone. We should want the things that come with gentrification, but we should want those things for every person in the community, regardless of their race, in a way that benefits everyone. The problem is there's a top-down approach that does not tend to take into account the opinions of the residents. And we kind of hit on that last night, is I think a lot of people don't feel like they are involved in the planning, in the process, until they see it happening or know somebody that is affected by it.
You know, here's a key component of gentrification too. The thing is, they'll blight a community for a while, which means they'll make it desolate. Look, we only have one real grocery store on this side of town. We don't have a coffee shop on this side of town. We don't have really a real sit-down. It's only few sit-down restaurants that we have on this side of town. So what we do, we start complaining we need this on this side of town. But the problem is, it'll be harder for a mom and pop to start it. But they'll give a corporation, like say like somebody was going to build a Starbucks out here by Walmart.
First sign of gentrification.
They're going to give them the land. First of all, they're going to give them the land. They're going to make it easier for them. They're going to give them tax breaks to do that. Then we start complaining instead of, like Jill said in that comment, instead of them giving us the opportunity to build up our community, they'll give corporations. And that takes, the mom and pop, that takes the people out of the neighborhood.
You telling me.
Yeah.
Look at every time they come with a seed program or something where they're giving dollars, it stops at my business every time. And so when I call inquiring about funding or facade grants, they say, oh, it cut off at whatever street, and it just happened to be about 10 feet before it makes it to my door.
Right.
So trust that I understand.
And I think, too, when a Starbucks does come in, I mean, that makes people that wanted to open a coffee shop less apt to do so. Because if you have a Starbucks that everybody knows about and that everybody goes to, that's where everybody's going to meet. So the mom and pop coffee shop is hesitant to open anything up to compete with that.
Unless it's owned by Chuck. Sorry.
Well, here's the other part of that comment. People don't have a say-so. How can you have a say-so when you don't own nothing? When you don't own the house in that community? So if I'm only renting this house that I've been renting for 30 years and I don't own nothing, I don't have no say-so.
At all. No leg to stand on.
Nothing to stand on because I have no ownership. I have no stake. I could have paid for the house 10 times of the rent that I'm paid, but if I don't own it, I don't have no say-so. So if you don't have ownership, I could do they could come and do whatever because I have no say-so because I'm renting.
Right.
I mean, it's the difference.
Yeah.
More comments?
You have one more. I have one more. And it pretty much continues to go with where we were saying. It was like, what's wrong with trying to improve the south side of town? We need it. Why try to stop it? It's not that we want to stop it.
Yeah,
we just want to see. We just want to see more of us into it. We want to see more of our input. Like he was just saying, we want to have some say so. We want to not just things pop up that don't. I've never had anything from Starbucks in my entire life. So I don't need another.
Let's make this clear.
Let's make this clear. I don't need another Starbucks. I've never patronized Starbucks.
I want you to mention something about you said last night that they felt like they was giving us. I don't know if it was you or Jill. The art that's going on the wall.
Yeah, that was us.
Let's talk about that.
Legitimately, we sat in a meeting. It was last year sometime, and they were trying to figure out. I don't know who sponsored it, but it was the Southside Improvement District or whatever it was, the name of it. But this gentleman. They brought a young black gentleman and set him up in front of us. No lie. This gentleman was 26 at the time. And his speech was, well, doing our research, we researched and we come to understand that if you paint your buildings and put murals on the side of your building, people will be more apt to come visit your building. What? That'll improve your neighborhood. This is what he said.
And can I ask you a question?
And
I got it on tape if y'all don't believe
well,
it.
all I'm saying is they did it, so maybe they feel like that's enough.
Can I ask you a question, Clarence?
Yes.
Do they do that out north?
No.
Do they do it out west?
No. But the problem is.
No.
Go ahead.
Do they do that? Have they done it out east?
No.
Okay, so if they haven't done it in these other prominent neighborhoods and section of the town, why would they say it would happen? It's good for the south side of town.
Because we were fool enough to do it.
Well, because you know you like graffiti on your wall.
My point exactly. I mean, it's just it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
It really doesn't.
Well,
make
we
sense.
like art. We're culture.
Well, and I mean, the money they stuck into giving people to put these murals up.
The murals are beautiful, by the way.
Yeah, they are.
Everyone.
Some of these murals are dope, but the money they gave to do these murals is the money they could have used to help bring in business.
Before y'all get off the murals, Optimistics has a big naked.
I got you,
wall.
girl. I got you. I got a bunch of spray paint.
I just bought some crayons. I'll be over there. I'll be over there tomorrow.
I got you. I just gave something and put it up on your wall.
Yeah.
But I mean,
Have
I'm
at
just saying, the money that they gave to do these murals is money they could have allocated for other things that the south side of town actually really needed.
Yes.
Right. You know, Clarence, I know we're getting ready to get out of here, but I just have a question. So you said if we had a say-so. So if you were in that meeting, what would your say-so be? What would you like to see as somebody who has lived in the community? What would your say-so be?
Legitimately, I asked the guy as he was speaking, are you serious? Legitimately, I asked him. I asked him. It's like, are you serious? You said paint on a building is going to change the culture, and he was like, "Well, we've seen it happen." I was like, "Paint, just paint on the side of a building is legit."
And you would have said what?
I had this conversation, but I asked him because they also reiterated, as he said, we don't own home ownership is down, and now they're going to take away 70 to 80 homes and put low income apartments. I would have said no. Let's not do that. Let's teach people how to own property, how to own homes, how to maintain. We can put that money into, that broadens the tax base. That's what I'm saying. Let people have the right and a chance to be able to do for themselves, live for themselves, and be able to be a part. Because money is say in America. Money is say. Money talks more than anything in America.
But before they start talking, you have to have a mind shift. You have to have a
Absolutely.
renewed mind that says, I want to do that.
I agree.
You have to want
But
change.
if you don't give people opportunities, you don't know what mindset they have until you put the opportunity in something.
But you know, because you see, and all I'm saying is when you start saying, what's the start? What's step number one? Step number one is a renewing of the mind.
I agree.
You have to start there.
Absolutely.
Yes.
I agree. Mr. Scott, you going to close us out before I end the show? You got something for us?
Man, yes, always. Just want to encourage everybody to do the best that you can with what you have and to grow your mind. Knowledge is key. Education is key. To be intentional for Black America does not mean that we don't love all people.
Correct.
To speak directly at the issue for Black people does not mean we don't love everybody. Black people, we need a lot of help, and we need to help ourselves.
Yes.
So when we speak on things like this, to say that people of all color or whatever it is, I get it. Love them all. I see other cultures come over here and get assistance to build themselves up. I see other cultures come over and get attacked and get bills passed to protect them. I watch Black people get killed and we get nothing. We march, we stand together, and they attack the protests. It can't even be peaceful. To be intentional, to say what we mean for Black people and stand on it. 100%. Strongly encourage Black people, good people, to stand up, speak out, be a part of the change. We have to, collectively.
And stop killing each other.
Yes,
Start with that.
That is very profound. And we want to thank everybody that tuned in for your comments and everything. We're going to ask you to join us again next week. We're going to have a new topic. But also, go to all of our social media, click like and share, go to our YouTube, hit the bell so you'll know what's coming. We thank you again. Have a good night.
Chase 405 is the freeway, slinging my, banging my, swinging my cool. DeVille School.